Hey, what's going on, you guys? Today I'm going to be doing my out-of-box review for number 8 in the HG Blooded Orphans line, but only the second Gundam type to come out in the series so far. It is the Gundam Gusion. Now, of course, there are going to be other Gundams appearing later in the series. We know at least the Chimaris and then one other one that we don't have the name for it yet, but this is the only other Gundam type that we have, and it's quite a bit different from the Barbatos, you could say. It's pretty much, in fact, total opposite in terms of just the overall sort of look and shape of the kit. This one is super huge, bulky, short, and wide. The Barbatos is just very tall and thin. So yeah, I'll give you guys a shot later on in the review just to see the two of them next to each other because it's quite a striking difference. As you guys may have noticed, the mobile suit does also share a very strong resemblance to either a frog or a turtle, maybe however you want to look at it. I personally think with that backpack, or just with the back of the mobile suit the way it is, it's very much like a turtle. But, and then the face as well, like the whole head. Anyway, just really interesting, unique design here, and I personally am very much into it. The backpack, I keep saying backpack, I don't know. The back, I don't really like the back of it that much, but, and actually, the legs, the lower legs especially, that's just like these very big, bulbous lower legs, not really for me either, but I think just when you look at the kit overall, it looks really cool. So like there's a few things, like if you look, like for me, if I look at one particular area, I maybe don't really like it too much, but I do really like just the look of the design overall. I'm really excited for the 1/100 scale version of this that's going to be coming out very soon. I really can't wait for that kit, so we'll take a look at that when it comes out. Anyway, big thank you to MindFenix Hobby Store for sending me this kit again. As always, just very thankful to get the chance to share this with you guys. Overall, the kit is really nice. Of course, it doesn't have a full inner frame. According to the story, it does have the exact same inner frame as the Barbatos, but of course in kit form, that's not going to be transferred into this version. The 1/100 scale is going to have a little bit more of that frame in there, but this one, I mean, you can see it a little bit in a couple of the joints, the waist section, what you can see, very little of it in there, and then like the elbows are, that's kind of similar joint there, so you can kind of see it a little bit in some areas, but for the most part, not really going to be able to tell. Colors, I mean, it's pretty basic, pretty simple in terms of the color scheme. I think that maybe could have been a little bit more interesting, but of course with painting that shouldn't be any problem. The stickers, there's only a couple really, these white marking stickers on the shoulders, the fork here on the front skirt, and then the eyes is pretty much it. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the kit. And I'll show you guys a little bit about some of the articulation as well. This kit is very big and bulky, similar to the Mobile Worker, but it's definitely not as heavy as the Mobile Worker. The Mobile Worker kit, HD Mobile Worker, had quite a lot of weight to it, just because it was like a lot of parts stacked on top of parts. This one is relatively simple, so it's not going to be all that heavy. The head, really nice shape of the head for this kit. That's one of the things that I really quite like about the design, is the head shape. It's really cool, unique. It's the gray pieces. I like how the gray pieces feed through the top there for those Vulcans. That's really nice. The eyes are really cool there. Those are just stickers though. These two little fin parts on the top of the head are separate pieces that drop down into there. So really small pieces, but they stay in there really well. I have no doubt in my mind that those are going to stay in there and never fall out. So don't have to really worry about losing those. The articulation for the head is just on that same kind of polycap joint, so it's going to come up about that far, and then you can have it off to the side, whatever, down like that, back up kind of inside this sort of shape there. Anyway, the other thing that I thought was really cool about the design is that these look very similar to the beam cannons on the chest of the Kshatriya, but these are not actually beam cannons, they're just regular munition cannons. So that was really cool to see that in the anime, and they even like commented about that, like, whoa, he has those huge like cannons just built into the mobile suit, and that was pretty intense moment there. I thought that was pretty cool. This elbow piece is honestly, it's not elbow, shoulder. Doesn't feel the most secure. Definitely going to take some gluing in that when you want to go to paint it. It's not bad, but I'm just really worried that that's going to come off, because when you're moving this stuff around, it does seem to loosen up a little bit, and inside there as well. So that's going to move up about that far and let you bring the arm up about like that. That's going to be the maximum angle you can bring the arm up. There's no other way to move around this giant shoulder armor. Otherwise, the arm is going to move pretty regularly, just a rotation in the top of there, bend at the elbow, slightly more than 90 degrees, but really not too much. We can see some cool mechanical detail here in the back, just kind of added on there. And then the wrist is just on a ball joint. Now in the waist section I mentioned, you can see, let me just pull this apart here. So you can see this has the same kind of like piston thing like the Barbados. But, you know, once this is on here, you're not really going to see that in there pretty much, unless you really bend it and you're really looking, but it isn't really going to bend too much. You know, like moves around a little bit, but it's just going to pop back into the center position. So really, the only thing you're going to have at the waist is a little bit of rotation, and even there, not all too much. I guess it's really not bad. You can get it off to the side like that, but just because of this backpack, and I'm still calling it a backpack. God, just the back comes pretty far down, so like when you start to turn that, it's hitting onto the side skirts. So speaking of the side skirts, those just work pretty normally. The connection point is nice that it's out quite far, so you are able to move those side skirts a little bit without them running into stuff. So you can open them up out a little bit. The front skirts are connected, but you can cut those in the middle to separate them, so to make the front skirts individually articulated. The back skirt, of course, has no articulation, but we have this little piece that will fold down there, and that's where we're going to be able to attach our rifle. We'll come back to that momentarily. The legs are going to be able to move out about so far, and there we can see they're just on a ball joint there at the top, so we're not going to have any rotation at the top of the leg. It's only going to be rotating as far as that ball joint is going to allow you in that space there. So, but it is kind of enough. You're going out like that. And then a double jointed knee, but let's see how far we can bring this up. Just because of the design of it, it's really not going to, I mean, like you can bring the leg up like that, but that's not really utilizing this here very well. I guess, there we go. It can go down about like that far, so it can bring that foot all the way back like that, but it's not going to bring it up high. If you wanted to have it like the knee pointing up, I guess is what I'm trying to say, you're going to have it like that. Anyway, in the feet, I do like the design of the feet. They're really quite simple, but they're very hidden by this lower leg. They're able to move down pretty far, so that's nice. Up like so, to basically be like totally hidden there. And then side to side, you're going to have a little bit inside there, but again, because of the shape of this lower leg, the side to side movement of the ankle is really not going to do too much, because there's not really much room for it to go anywhere. But it will move a little bit off to this, it will angle a little bit to give you a little bit wider stance if you wanted to have it standing. And that's pretty much it. So that's it for the articulation. Pretty basic. Despite its very big, bulky shape, the articulation is really not bad, I think. So here's our rifle. Pretty nice. I do actually really like the design of this rifle. It's pretty cool, really simple. Just going to drop down into the hand. As you saw, it can also fit onto the back skirt here. Just going to drop in there like that. And when you want to take it out, you just pop that out. Pop it into the hand. And there you go. No problem with that. But of course, the big accessory that everyone wants to see is the open hand. That's right. For the first time in an Iron Blood Orphans kit, we finally get something other than a holding hand. This is the first time we're finally getting an open hand. And not just any open hand, this is actually a really super nicely detailed open hand. You can see I really like how thin the fingers are and like how small and thin the hand is compared to the giant size of the mobile suit. It's a really cool, interesting look. So finally we got an open hand. We can all be happy now. And then we can move on to, you know, this other weapon, which is just kind of okay, really not the most unique thing in the world, but we do have this huge giant hammer. You know, it's pretty cool. I'm just kidding, of course. This is a really awesome weapon. It's so goofy, kind of, in a way, just because it's just this huge giant hammer, but it was really cool in the anime. We could see like these 4 holes here on the front and back are just basically thrusters to help him like swinging this really quickly, just because we would assume it's quite heavy. The end of this does pop off like that, so you don't have to take the hand apart to put this in the hand. You could, but the easier way to do it is just pull off the end of there, put this into the hand, and then pop the end of this back on. And then we have a connection piece for this on the backpack. So we have this little panel here on the backpack, and we can take that off. And then there's that polycap there. Then we just plug this on like so. Plug this armor panel back onto that piece, so basically it looks like it's like raised up, and then we can hold the hammer inside there like this, so that it can carry the hammer on its backpack like so. That's really cool. I think it's really nice that it can hold that, and it can hold the gun on the back skirt as well. So that's a pretty cool feature. So one thing that I am worried about this kit though is just because it is really big and bulky, like the mobile worker. The problem I had with the mobile worker is that you couldn't really put it up on an action base just because it was so heavy. For it to be just like on just that one peg of an action base, it was gonna fall over. This one's not quite so heavy, so I don't think it'll be an issue. Let me get out my action base too, and we'll try it out. So up here on my action base 2, I'm not really having so much of a problem about worrying about the weight. I think it's kind of okay. Like I said, it's not quite as heavy as the mobile worker, so it's probably going to be okay. The one issue that I am having is more with just the action base, where it has the screw in there. That the angle of the action base, I wanted to have this up at a slightly higher angle, but it kept sagging down, and the screw is tight, but it's still sagging down a little bit, so it is going to put definitely some pressure on your action base, so just make sure your screws are really tight on there before you try keeping this up on an action base for too long, because like I said, it's not quite as heavy as the mobile worker, definitely better for balancing, but it is still pretty heavy for a 1/144 scale kit. So as you can see here, it's really not going to have too much trouble holding up that hammer. Despite its size, it's really quite light, and it seems the arm appears to be strong enough that it's going to have no trouble holding up that big hammer, and that's not really going to be an issue. One thing about the rifle that is a little bit of an issue is the back of the rifle. The butt of the rifle has like a part that kind of sticks up a little bit, and when you're trying to hold it in a pose like something like this, if you want to have the elbow bent and the rifle kind of brought back, if you want to have the rifle just like the arm extended straight out, not going to be a problem, but you can see I've had to tuck that little part up underneath the shoulder armor there, so you just kind of have to move that around a little bit, but that will be an issue. One thing that I will say I forgot to mention about some other stickers on the chest, there is 4 other little gray stickers there on the chest, 2 on the top and 2 underneath, just these like little gray square stickers on there, but those would be really easy to drop a little bit of paint in there just to paint those when you're painting the kit, so not going to be too big of an issue for that. And here's just a quick comparison for you guys if anyone was interested in seeing how this kit is going to compare to the Barbatos. As you can see, quite a bit shorter, but quite a bit larger. I thought it was a little bit fitting there with the Barbatos to tote his sword, the weapon that was used to bring the pilot of the Gusion to his ultimate demise. Fairly gory death for an animated series, I would say. Well, for a Gundam animated series, there are certainly far worse animated series out there, but for Gundam it's pretty rare that we see a death quite as gruesome as that particular pilot's was. But anyway, I think the Gusion did do a really good job in the animated series. It was definitely, it conveyed that powerful sort of image that it needed to be a Gundam of that size anyway, but of course it didn't stand up for very long against the Barbatos, so too bad. But now at the current point in the series, it is now in the hands of Tekkaden. probably going to be piloted by Akihiro, but like I said, at the time of recording this video, its fate is still not exactly clear. So that's pretty much going to do it for my review of the HG Gundam Gusion. I gotta say, it's a really cool, interesting kit. I think it's just another example of a really unique design. I do have to say, though, again, that I still have my suspicions about this being a leftover design from Reconquista and G, but you know, whether it is or it isn't doesn't really matter. Is it a good kit? Yes. Is it a really cool, interesting design? Yes. So that's really all that matters. Is it a nicely engineered kit? I would say yes, is also a really nicely engineered kit, despite it being much more simple than the Greys and the Barbatos, the early kits in the series that had a pretty much full inner frame. This one, of course, is a little bit back to just the kind of standard expectations of an HG. No full inner frame, but it is a nice modern HG, and with the addition of that open hand, that's also a big sigh of relief that we now have a little bit more in terms of hand options for these kits. So, would I recommend you to buy it? I would say that if you want a cheaper kit of the Gundam Gusion, then yes. If you don't mind spending a little more, then maybe you want to wait for the 1/100 scale version. Personally, I think the 1/100 scale looks a little bit better just because of the design of the Gusion. I think it will look better in a larger size kit, just because then you can really get the feel of how big and large and bulky it is. That's my personal feeling, but maybe the 1/144 scale is enough for you. So in that case, yes, by all means, go ahead and pick this up. 1,200 yen for this is a really good price, because as you can see, we're getting quite a lot of plastic in there. One thing I did forget to mention as well is if any of you guys watched the Hobbylink TV episode that I also watched, you could see that they gave a pretty interesting little tip there, is that the hammer, you can open it up and then like your extra hand piece and your extra connection piece and stuff you can just kind of store in the hammer there, which is a kind of cool thing. I don't think Bandai really intended that, but it is a kind of interesting little method. Of course, if you're going to be painting the kit, you're probably going to want to remove the seam line on the hammer, and then you would eliminate that. But if you aren't going to be painting it as a cool little thing, then you could be sure you don't lose those extra little pieces. So that's kind of nice, I guess. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Of course, if you have any other questions or comments about this, leave those down below, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Bye-bye.